Hey everyone, so this is Zach, of course, and we are taking a little bit of a drive. We are running software version 2020.20.13. So there's a more recent version, which is 2020.24.1, I think. But yeah, so this version that we're running here is the first version in Canada that gave us the stop sign and stop light recognition. So once we get going here, we're obviously going to go ahead and turn that feature on. If you're not aware, once the car is driving, you've got the traffic aware cruise control, so that will work with the stoplight and stop sign recognition. But if you go ahead and put it into autopilot, of course we've got the lane assist, lane keeping, we've got the speed control. But the downside is you can only go the speed limit, the exact speed limit. Now, normally not really a big issue, especially if you're in that kind of a city, which is where it's really handy. But it's an issue in where if the mapping data is not correct and it's like less in terms of speed, like say it's like a 50 kilometer an hour zone and it thinks it's a 40, let's say, or it's a 60 and it's a 40, whatever it may be. If the information's incorrect, obviously you're going to piss off a lot of people, and they're going to be tailgating you and just not too happy as overall. So I've personally found it more useful using the feature when I'm just using the traffic aware cruise control versus using the autopilot portion as well. So we're going to go do a few things here. Ones that, gotta hold on. One thing to note is that this is just going to be a straight trip. We're going to try a few features and a few maneuvers, let's say, that I know in the past it hasn't worked very well, and some in which it has worked really well. Because what I find from version to version is that sometimes things will get better, but some things that were really good may get worse. But yeah, so let's take a look here. We're going to come up on some train tracks here in just a moment. And of course we're in autopilot mode, so we're stopping for traffic, slowing through traffic control. So that's one thing it's found is that, in this case, it just wanted to stop, and now it wants to yell at me. But what I have found in most train tracks is that it actually just slows down, just like you or I would when we're driving over train tracks. You'd slow down a little bit because it's bumpy and you don't want to bottom out your car or whatever, just do damage. But yeah, so it used to, at least in most train tracks, it would actually just slow down and not go all the way through, but sometimes it would go through and kind of just slow down, go through, but go through cautiously, just like I said, just like you or I would. But on that example, it just decided to stop and then yell at me. So that's always appreciative, autopilot. But I don't know if you heard that, stupid gas guzzlers, ice vehicles. No, I'm just kidding. I still like ice vehicles, still like gas vehicles, but I like my Tesla a lot more. Okay, so let's go ahead and put the traffic aware speed control into place. Now this is actually an interesting example. So it's saying it's a 70 through here, but it's not. It's a 50, if you can see that sign. I don't know how the white balancing is, but yeah, it's a 50. So that's something to be wary of. But yeah, so as we come up to a light with the traffic control, it's going to tell you it's going to stop, and in this current version, it's going to stop for everyone. So we're just going to tell it, yeah, it's good to go. I do see the light is going to change here, so let's see what happens. It picked it up that it was yellow, and it brought us to a stop pretty abruptly, but hey, I would have had to do the same thing there myself. So yeah, so a success for that for sure. For the most part, it's been working really good. There's been some edge cases, like I said, the train tracks, sometimes they function without issues, sometimes, well, as you saw, there are issues, but it's technically listed beta so far, so we'll use it as it is and keep your eye. So as you're waiting at the stop light or stop sign, you got to kind of keep aware of what's going on and what you need to do. And as the lights change here, we're going to tell the car it's okay to go forward. and we push down on this autopilot stock there. In future versions of the software that are already out there, primarily in the United States, you can go through a green light if there is a car in front of you, which is good, which is kind of what it did before, because in autopilot, if there was a car in front of you and you came up to a stoplight or a stop sign, the car would stop anyways. But this time, if there's a green light, it's going to let you go through because it notices that there's a car in front of you, a lead vehicle that it can go through. So let's go ahead and tell it it's okay to go. Pretty good on the acceleration, I find. Prior to this update, it was a little abrupt. It would kind of wait a minute and then just pull you back. Yeah, so let's go through a couple lights here. And of course, like I said, it's telling us that it's going to stop. We're going to tell it it's okay to go forward. I can see by the walking signs that it's okay to continue. I just had to go ahead and put my foot on the accelerator there, because I find with the vehicles, for some reason, they're super cautious. If a vehicle is going in front of its trajectory, that it kind of wants to slow down quicker than you or I as a human driver would. So I kind of got to watch out for that. And once again, we're good to go through because the light is green. A little annoying at times. Primarily, the two annoyances I find is you're always telling it it's okay, go. When you look at the screen, it's like, well, car, that it's a green light, but you gotta let it know that it's okay to go. In this example, people are gonna get pissed off, so I'm gonna move over so that we're not holding traffic back, and it's the right thing to do. So I just used the lane changing feature there, where it checks the blind spots for me, and you can see a vehicle coming up beside you anyways through there, and it makes the maneuver nice and seamless. We'll probably go ahead and do a route back on the autopilot with Navigate on autopilot on the highway there, but for this part we're just going to go through a few lights and show off the features. Once again, coming up to a red light, I like to actually see and take a look at when the car is noticing that it's a red light, because there's two versions. Like, there's mapped data, and we're good, so it's changed. I can tell it's good to go. But there's mapped data, where the map data in the vehicle knows where there's an intersection and a traffic light or a stop sign. But then there's also the neural nets, or the visual assist of the vehicle's cameras, right? Because there's 3 cameras in there. I believe only one is working right now. They have not enabled the other 2. But so what the camera's doing, it's looking for stop lights, looking for stop signs. It's seeing what color the lights are, and all that stuff there as well. And you'll notice that if there wasn't a stoplight there before and it's new and it's not in the data, or a stop sign, that the car doesn't know ahead of time that there's that there, obviously, right? Like, in terms of if you're coming around a corner or a hill where it can't see that stoplight or stop sign, sometimes you'll notice, depending on when it sees that traffic control, that it just slams on the brakes at times, because it's like, whoa, I didn't know that was there, so we should stop. But yeah, just going on a nice cruise. At this point, to demonstrate everything, I'm just gonna go the speed limit, keep it as is. But if you haven't seen a video of mine or anyone else's in terms of how the system works, I'll go over that here in just a second. But before I do, I'd like to ask you to do the normal: like, comment, subscribe. Let me know how you find the video. Let me know what you want to see. Is there a particular part of an electric vehicle that you wanted to know about? And I'll definitely try my best to make a video. But in terms of the screen, as we're driving, the car is driving primarily by itself. I can go ahead and go over that here. So we've got the main information cluster. So this is obviously your speed limit, battery indicator, your gear selection, and then your autopilot, your current speed, and then the vehicle, of course. So this changes color depending on what vehicle you have, but then of course you've got the blue lines indicating that your vehicle is currently in autopilot. Below this, we can go ahead and use the voice activation feature, make it colder in here. Okay, just turn the temperature down a little bit for us, make it nice and cozy. Kind of doing a little bit of ping-ponging here, which is not always the best. This area is newly redeveloped, so the car sometimes isn't the best. And knowing, especially because there's a lot of changes to the lanes and whatnot due to repainting and whatnot there as well. But yeah, then we got the charging, so it lets us know what the battery pack is, any supercharging costs, and whatnot. Primarily, it's more useful when you're actually charging your vehicle. And your good old backup cam, nice and clear, as long as it's clean. Obviously, sometimes just, you like to keep everything clean, especially the cameras, mainly because they're the eyes to the vehicle there, right? So we're coming to a stop. As you see, the lights have now gone green. We're going to tell the vehicle it's good to go and to continue through that light. So you'll notice as well that we're not really going too fast. Like the speed limit, I believe, is actually dropped in here. So this is one of those examples in which we can kind of go a little faster, as long as it's safe to do so, of course. But I believe it's a 16 here. So going 10 over in Ontario is typically not an issue, and it's a common thing for everyone else to do. So I do, from time to time, have issues with this upcoming intersection. So we're slowing down, but I can tell it's good to go, because as a driver, I would just keep going. But sometimes I find that there's issues. So I'm going to hold closer to the steering wheel, and it made it through without an issue. That's great. But yeah, it's always good to keep your hands. A little bit of good old phantom braking there. But it's always good to kind of keep your hands near or on the steering wheel, because you never know whether something's just not going to go right. I've had at times where the vehicle, for some reason, is tracking a vehicle in an opposite lane. So as you see, like the vehicles as we come closer to one, it'll be a dark gray. So that's the car that the vehicle's currently tracking. To make sure it goes and follows it, and it doesn't go through intersections that it doesn't go too close to the car, and it kind of just keeps an eye on what it's doing, right? So I found that there's some glitch in this software version that in this one particular part of the highway, the vehicle just tracks the car in the opposite lane, and then it likes to just slam on the brakes. So if I'm going, 10 or so over, it likes to slam on the brakes, and I think it's supposed to be tracking the vehicle in the opposite lane, which is not safe. So obviously, keep an eye and watch what you're doing. So we're going down to 50 here. I think we're going to start pissing people off. So from time to time, like when you're in the autopilot and the cruise control features, right, you can go ahead and put your foot on the gas to force it to go over the current speed limit, because like I said, that's one of the downsides and the pain points to this new firmware version, is that you can't go over the speed limit. But if I was to say, I think that's going to be a common thing. I don't think self-driving cars are going to break the law. I think they're designed to drive the speed limit and follow the rules, and if you're allowing it to go over the speed limit and a cop decides to pull you over for going slightly over, whose fault is it, right? In an example where it's just, level 2 autonomy, where it's just driver assist features, obviously it's the driver, but in the days where the cars are driving by themselves 100%, so level 5, say we get to that point where we're sleeping in the back and the car's driving you around, and if the car goes over the speed limit, whose fault, right? So I think they're going to be programmed to go the posted speed limit there. But as we continue to go through these lights, right, you're just letting the car know it's okay to proceed. I want to ask you a question. With the move of autonomous vehicles and all that, I ask these things to myself and say, what if. So when a vehicle's fully autonomous, like I was saying a minute ago, with the speed limit, if you're going over the speed limit, or if the vehicle in autonomous mode is going over the speed limit, whose fault is it? But also, how does the vehicle decide who to protect? And what I mean by this is that if you're driving your vehicle, physically you are driving the vehicle, and there's a group of people, a crowd in the middle of the road, for whatever reason, there's a crowd, and the only way for you not to injure or, kill these people in the crowd is to veer off the road and hit a tree. Now, what if in that example it was 100% guaranteed that you were going to die if you hit that tree? But if you hit the people, you're going to be safe, but you're going to kill people. So we're looking at the extremes, 100%. One way you kill people, one way you kill yourself. If you're driving the vehicle, that's your decision to make, right? That whatever type of person you are and what you value, that's completely you. But who are you to take? Who are you to protect? Okay, so in my example, I'm going to protect the people, right? 30 people over me is probably the better route to protect, right? So in the event of self-driving, who makes that decision? You or I make that decision now with driving our own vehicles, but when the vehicle is driving itself, who is it designed to protect? Is it designed to protect the person inside the vehicle? Or is it designed to protect the people on the road? Because a computer could potentially calculate the risk and percentages based on speed, all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. Just something to ask, and I wonder, ask yourself that, post in the comments. What do you think about that? Okay, but now we're coming up to a little bit of a tricky spot, so I'm probably going to move over because my car is probably going to decide to go its sweet speed by itself here. Just see that there's some cars behind me there, so I don't want to just, even though the autopilot is going to deem if it's safe to switch lanes, I don't want to cut somebody off and then be going just the speed limit when they're maybe going like 1 or 2 kilometers over the speed limit. So this is just a crosswalk until it's okay, but I'm going to go ahead and switch lanes. As you see, it checked and it saw that vehicle was there, and it lit it up red to say, don't do it, it's not safe. Okay, coming up to the light, as you can see, we've got the tracer car there. That's why it's a dark gray, and that's why that one's a light gray. So that's why I was saying before, when in this version we've got some issues in which it tracks the wrong vehicle and decides to be like, oh, let's slam on the brakes there, Mr. Car. Okay, so we are just waiting. You can see the light is red. The lines in the road are red, saying stop. And then once again, the tracer car, and then all other vehicles there. And it is good to go. You'll notice that if it's not safe, if the light has changed color, so it's gone from red to green, and you haven't decided to, make any adjustments, that the vehicle will go ahead and make that adjustment for you. So coming up to a red and to a green, so it's let us know that it's now green. Now, this turn, even for driving yourself, so you are behind the wheel, you are taking control, this curve in a situation where you've got a lot of vehicles can be pretty daunting, to say the least. So I'm letting the vehicle do its own thing. As you notice, there is a traffic light up there, so we're going to have to keep telling it it's okay, because it's actually just an additional additional traffic light for this set here. So we're going to tell it it's okay to continue. There we go. So it's coming to the light here as well. And stopping as expected. But yeah, so for just going straight through a road, this is great. You know, you don't really have to do much. You just let it know that it's okay to continue. One thing I find it's really annoying is in those kind of cases which you're turning onto side streets and stuff like that, it's an annoying feature to use. Like, if you're doing any turns, just, to be honest, just don't use it. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It's kind of pointless and stupid because you have to turn it off, turn it back on, turn it off, turn it back on every time you turn, because obviously the vehicles don't turn for themselves yet. Hopefully, apparently that's supposed to come later this year. And then you see we're coming up the light. I'm going to say it's good, but it's probably going to pull us to a stop here. Let's see what happens. No, not bad. So normally as a driver myself, I wouldn't have stopped there either, because the light had just gone yellow, and I know that there's enough time for me to continue through that light without running the risk of being caught in a red light. No, it's good to go. This looks like it's going to change, but we should be good. Nice. So I like to see that, actually. I like to see that the car is aware enough that if it's, X feet before the light, you don't need to slam on your brakes and cause everyone drinking their drinks in the car to have their drinks fly forward. That it's cautious in that sense. You can see we've got a biker there, which is nice. In this version also we have, I think it was this version, if not it was one before it, but we have directional people. So actually the direction they're traveling and walking in will be indicated on the screen. But also they actually walk and physically have motion to them, which is nice. So they're not just stick people just flapping their arms. Alright, so that's it for this one. We're going to go ahead and turn off the camera for a bit, and I'll be back, and we'll see the next feature. We'll see the autopilot, navigate on autopilot. But if you want to keep watching, great. I will let the camera keep recording, but other than that, it's going to be the same stuff. Okay. If I notice anything, though, I'll chime in and make a comment there as well. See, this is where I'm talking about. We are going the speed limit. Apparently, we can't really tell if we're going slower than the speed limit because I haven't seen a speed limit sign for a bit. I'm gonna go ahead and put some gas down to get us a little bit over there, so we're not impeding traffic there. Yeah, it is 50. The car was correct.